welcome to the High Heels and Hay Bales podcast. I am attorney Adrienne Hines, and this is my friend, my chaotic and hilarious friend, Kristen Paras. And we are starting 2025 off right because we have taken our ADHD and we have combined it together to make one huge mistake called a podcast.
That's a fact.
Kristen, we have finally gotten it together. We have pulled together all of our technological skill, and after an inordinate number of mistakes, we are finally actually recording a podcast. This is something we've been talking about for a little while.
Several months. Yeah,
I think we've changed the name like 42 times and finally settled on it, which I'm actually thrilled about because I think it really highlights exactly who we are and what we're doing here. So, Kristen, who are you? Why don't you tell the audience who you are and why we're here?
Well, I am our resident hillbilly homesteader. I have a homestead and I have chickens. I also have children. Those are probably more important than the chickens. Well, whatever. I have pigs and turkeys and ducks, and I am on the exact opposite end of the world of Adrienne. I am very much a hillbilly and I like to talk. So I think that's why I'm here.
You know, it's funny because as people start to get to know us, I am a bankruptcy lawyer. I've been practicing law for almost 30 years, and I did the whole, law firm and my name on the side of the business. And that's really where I come from. And on the surface, you and I look to be very, very different. We live very different lives in many ways from the outside looking in. But the reality is we're doing this podcast and we've come together as friends because we both have very similar personalities. That is my concern. I will say that is my concern.
I'm there with you. Have had this conversation with my therapist. When I told her the name of the podcast, she said, that's hysterical and brilliant. But do you have a manager? Like, do you have someone to stop the insanity? I think that's part of the nuance, the joy of us is the insanity that comes along with all of this.
I just think it adds to the recklessness of what we're doing, and that alone is delightful to me because I absolutely enjoy living life on the slightly reckless side. You and I are both take a tremendous amount of joy in regaling each other with our ADHD craziness. And it turns out we got a lot of similarities with our particular strand of ADHD, and we love stuff like this. And so on the outside looking in, we look to be very, very different. But the reality is that you and I are both hilarious and we love to talk. And that's why we're doing a podcast.
100%.
We touched on a little bit of the contrast between our lives, but let's dig into it just a little bit more. Kristen, I'm not even sure I completely understand what homesteading is. So give the audience a little bit of understanding of what your day looks like and what it means to be a homesteader.
So the homesteading community and term kind of has its own thing. And I'm not going to get into the semantics of that because I'll talk about that for 47 hours. Rabbit hole. But essentially, I have a tiny farm. That's the long and the short of it. It's a tiny farm. I grow our food. I grow flowers. I sell it at the farmer's market. I sell it at my roadside stand. I have eggs. I'm basically a millionaire because I have so many eggs at this point. I collect farm animals, much to my husband's, I don't know the word I'm looking for. He's not a homesteader. That's the fun part about this. Oh
boy.
Yeah, no, he was really not happy when he had to build a pig pen yesterday when it was 25 degrees and sleeting. Anyway, that's basically in a nutshell a homestead. I don't like the government. And I don't like to buy food at the grocery store, and I figure I can grow it cheaper. That's a lie. And I was also raised on a farm. So this is my normal. I'm just a hillbilly, man. That's it.
Are you growing enough food for your family?
Yes.
I'm just out of curiosity. Okay, cool.
I actually last year was a drought, so it wasn't that great. I have ways to, navigate that too. There's a Amish auction not too far. Okay. And by the way, you're going to come to one with me this summer. And
oh boy.
Oh yeah. It's going to be a blast. I think, yeah, I'm putting my foot down, but okay. That's another piece of this. I can our food. I freeze our food. I do this. I raise and harvest chickens. We raised our pigs and they're in my freezer. Like that's the world I live in.
Wow. I got to tell you, honestly, I am super impressed with you because the more I get to know you, the longer we are friends, the more I'm fascinated by all of the stuff that you're doing. By contrast, I live in the suburbs with my husband, who is a retired judge, and I live in my, delightful home that I've recently remodeled, and I love to wear earrings and fancy clothes, and I will never come onto a podcast without some makeup on. That's just kind of who I am. I'm one of those people. I belong to the clubs, and I'm living that life. But the interesting thing, though, is that in my practice, which is as a bankruptcy lawyer, I've really leaned into that, and I've become extremely passionate about it because I want to save the world. I'm a save the world kind of person. And so while I do belong to the clubs, I tend to befriend the people who work there more than, the people who go there. So I'm a bit of a dichotomy because I feel like I can kind of move around in both worlds to some extent, only because I help and assist so many people who are financially struggling. But at the end of the day, it's not a surprise that our very first podcast that we are recording, we're doing it while you are sitting in your home in northern Ohio in a blizzard, and I am in beautiful Jamaica, where my husband and I are visiting for several weeks. So I thought that this was a real good dichotomy to show the world the differences between you and I. I know you're so pissed off about this too, but I told you to get your passport because I told you could come down and visit if you had one.
I know.
We're working on that.
I'm still working on it. I have still to find my marriage license, which is that's a fun story in and of itself. Going back to what you said about who you are and how you befriend the club employees more so than the people that are members. I think that's part of why we so easily befriended each other, because I for some reason know how to schmooze. I grew up with, I'm a poor hillbilly. I filed bankruptcy, for God's sake. And, I grew up, my grandfather was a business owner. He was an oil company owner. I thought I was going to inherit that. And then the SOB sold it and moved to Florida. Anyway, I'm not salty or anything, but
I can see that.
My family was involved in politics and really roamed in the higher echelon of the whatever. I don't know. I was around all of that. So I'm comfortable with people that move in the country club circles and all that stuff. So I think that's where, this is that tangent that we knew we were going to go off on,
Yep. Well, we are the Venn diagram, right?
We
the
are.
Venn diagram. We're where a couple of these important things in our life meet, and I think that's really kind of segues us into really kind of what we're doing here, and what my purpose in life is to debunk, and take away shame from the discussion of debt, because that's really how you and I met. So why don't you go ahead and tell the audience exactly how you and I met and how we became friends, because I think that's going to set the tone for what people are going to be able to expect from this podcast.
Outside of the insanity of the rabbit holes. But anyway, I alluded to this fact already. I filed bankruptcy. But first, let me take you back about a year before that. I found Adrienne on TikTok. And if you're not on TikTok, you better go before they take it away from us. And it's also another piece why we're... So I find Adrienne on TikTok, just scrolling, and as one does. And I'm like, this lady's pretty funny. And she's talking about bankruptcy, and my business just failed. I had a custom fabric business, and it was fantastic. And then COVID happened. And because of the nature of my business, I imported everything from China. So we had delays on products coming in. We had price gouging. We had so much stuff going on that it was a struggle to keep going. But because everybody was sewing fabric masks, my business picked up. And then at the end of 2021, my husband and I sold our house, bought our farm, moved. I gave birth to our second feral human being. And then you've met her. Then the business went screeching halt. I could not get anybody to buy fabric. I was having sale after sale after sale. And all through 2022, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. our house was twice the amount of our old house. My husband works he's a blue collar guy, works in a factory. Doesn't make a whole lot of money, better than he used to, but still not enough. And we struggled all the way to 2023. I found Adrienne. My husband and I had been throwing around bankruptcy, and I said, okay, I'm going to call her. And I did. And then we had our consultation. And after our, 20-minute consultation, we were on the phone for an hour BSing with each other, never spoke to each other outside of TikTok comments. Never.
Well, I will tell you the reason why you really piqued my interest was because I was super fascinated with the fact that you had owned a business that was, importing from China, and you had navigated that, and you understood that. And while you always describe yourself as a hillbilly, and I think as people will start to learn who are listening here, you come across, you like to play down your intelligence and your savvy. And that's something that I've learned over time with you, because I was super impressed with what you had done with your business, and I wanted to know more about it. And that's really why you and I kept talking, is because you had something really interesting, to talk about that I hadn't, would not have expected to come out of you. That's why we started talking, because I was super interested in this import stuff and how you learned how to do that.
I still don't know how I learned how to do it. It's that whole rabbit hole thing, man. Like, I shouldn't have probably started that business, but that's a whole story for another day. God, that's an hour-long story. We started the process, and then I was like, I'm afraid of this. I don't like this. I don't want to do this, because I wanted to keep paying the bills. I wanted to get out of it. We were in a place where we had a car repossessed. We were getting behind on everything. Like, we were paying our house payment and our car insurance, like the very basics, and trying to pay the bare minimum on credit cards. And then I couldn't afford this credit card. Then I couldn't afford that. And grocery prices kept going up. And with a new baby, we had formula and diapers and all that stuff that I hadn't had for 7 years. And all of these things were just compounding. And, sure, I got chickens and pigs, and that adds a little expense there. But I finally was like, okay, we got to get this done. We started getting sued by creditors.
Mm-hmm.
And around Christmas of what freaking year is it? 2023, Adrienne was like, hey, you need to get your butt in gear. And I'm like, yeah, we'll get it done. And
because that had been like 6 months after we had first talked. We had first talked 6 months before that. We had talked on the phone for over an hour, time that I would never spend. It's just very unusual for me to spend that kind of time with a new client I'd never met. And despite the fact that I'd spent all that time with you, you were still, afraid of the process, which I have always found very interesting.
And we still were talking on TikTok between messages and comments and videos and whatever. So it made no sense, but it was a mental sticking point on my end. And then I started working through TikTok Shop, and we very easily qualified under the means test in the state of Ohio. And then I started TikTok Shop, and then all of a sudden I started making money, and you were like,
Well, I think it's just really important to understand that you and I were becoming closer and closer friends, and following each other and laughing and sending each other memes and stuff on TikTok. And I started to see that your TikTok account was growing quickly, and you had started to do affiliate work. And I understand what affiliate work is going to do. It's going to start to bring you income. And so the bankruptcy, and this is technical stuff about bankruptcy that most people don't care about. There is an income limit requirement. So Kristen, you and your family had to make under a certain amount of money in order to qualify to file the real easy bankruptcy. And I began to grow concerned that you were going to start to make some money. I was actually starting to grow concerned just watching your account that you were going to start to become wealthy soon, and maybe not have this opportunity. And there's a thin line between starting to become successful and still being able to manage your debt. A lot of people think when they come into money that they're going to be able to solve all of their debt problems, but it actually can be a very difficult time to get a handle on all of your finances, because that's when everybody comes after after you. So I was very concerned that you were going to start to make some money. And I was right to be concerned, wasn't I?
You were right. You were very right. We, I mean, even through all of this, me bothering your paralegal, I love you, Taylor, like basically daily, it took Adrienne saying, listen, this is the deal. If you don't do this, you're not going to be able to file this easy bankruptcy. So we bit the bullet finally. And in May of 2024, we filed bankruptcy. And after that, we felt so much better. And then I was like, boom, more money. And it was great. And Adrienne and I just kind of kept our friendship going. And I became a big advocate for people to look at options such as bankruptcy with their finances.
And you went on, you have 2 accounts on social media. You have a primary account where you talk about homesteading, but you also have an account now where you talk about your family's experience through the bankruptcy process, right?
Yep. And it's grown quickly.
And both of them are very, very popular. I still do not completely understand the whole homesteading lifestyle. But I tell you what, girl, I watch your videos and I take notes and I think to myself, I'm sure my neighbors would be not thrilled if I brought some pigs home and put them in my backyard. You know, especially with the price of eggs these days, I'm definitely looking at chickens.
I will tell you, the chicken thing, you can get a few chickens and be good enough for you and your husband, and you'll be good to go. It's not so bad. And as long as you don't have a rooster, they're not loud.
Let me tell you, I think this really goes into this whole, the differences between you and I, the bougie suburban lady and the salt of the earth homesteader living on the outskirts of town. Our neighborhood won't allow us to have chickens. And it's a big deal these days because you start to see that there's some engineering going on in communities. My community, of course, is a fancy upscale neighborhood in a fancy suburb. And, you know, we can't put up fences and we can't do this and we can't do that. We're not allowed to have any flowering fruits or vegetables in our garden in the front. They have to be in the back. But most importantly is you absolutely cannot have any which highlights the fact that, you know, people who are well off are they don't understand what to do if suddenly there's an egg problem and they can't get them at the grocery store. I at least know to be best friends with you, so I can come over to your house and get them, right?
Well, the problem, you're hitting the nail on the head with that. I've run into just recently so many people like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And I tell everybody, grow some food, grow something that you eat, whether it be your herbs or your whatever. And people are like, I don't understand. And it blows my mind, but I grew up on a farm. I grew up growing food. I grew up raising chickens. I grew up doing all of that. So to me, this is second nature. Living in the suburbs, vacationing on the beach in Jamaica, I don't know how. I'm like, how are you not bored yet? It's been a week. How are you not bored? How many times have I asked you that this week?
You've asked me a lot. But I've been keeping busy. I've been keeping busy. But it would be easy to get bored in situations like this. That's why I'm sitting here starting a podcast with you while I'm on vacation in the Caribbean, because I cannot sit still. You know that.
Yep.
So I'm not allowed to grow much of my own food in the suburbs, and I do. You know, there are people out there that believe that this was, you know, a purposeful design to make us more reliant upon the capitalistic grocery system. And I think that 5 years ago, I kind of poo-pooed that and thought that might have been a little bit of a stretch, but I certainly don't think that anymore. I'm definitely leaning towards that. So maybe you can kind of see the other reasons why Kristen and I really are very like-minded. But I think what people are going to be able to expect from this podcast, Kristen, is, you know, you and I having some real talk about money and finances and motherhood and, just basic survival. Because as different as you and I are, we both have a lot of the same challenges, and we have to analyze our problems, with similar approaches.
Absolutely. We're two completely different ends of the spectrum, so to speak. But when it comes down to it, we really all have to figure it out in the same way. You just are more probably, not probably, you are more financially capable just to say, here, this is fixed. And I'm like, where's the zip ties and the duct tape? And I got to get me some baling twine. Literally, that's what happened yesterday. But we figure it out. And it's nice to have a friend to figure it out with.
Well, I'm learning a lot from you. I mean, I really am. I'm learning that every time I come to your house or watch your videos, I am not allowed to love your pigs because I will fall in love with them.
I told you.
I am not real thrilled that I know that you're going to give me some bacon someday, but I don't want to know the bacon provider. I'm one of those. I'm one of those people. It's just who I am. So we're going to have to
I explained to you.
That.
I explained to you. The big pigs don't love. The little cute babies that eat fruit bars out of my hand, those are the ones you can love. And I'm getting two more next week.
And we're not, well, what is the purpose of having the little pigs if you're not growing them to eat them? Because you can't milk them. They don't provide eggs. So why? Tell me, what is the purpose on a homestead of having 4 little pigs that are adorable?
Okay, so number one, so when I go outside, I can go, here, little pig, here, little pig. Also, when Jeremy came out, my husband came out with me yesterday, I got to watch him embrace his inner hillbilly and yell, Suey, which was hysterical to me. The purpose of the little pigs that I'm keeping, they are my breeding program. So when you have something, so when you have a homestead.
Okay, I'm seeing this angle now. This is just another revenue stream that I hadn't considered. So I'm loving it. Let's tell me more.
So I've got a brother-sister pair right now. They're still babies. They're like 4 months old and they're safe to be together. They are the start of my breeding program. I found a guy on TikTok. I know, shocker. And he lives couple hours from me and he breeds the same pigs. So I'm getting an unrelated male and female from him that are the same age as mine, and they are going to be the head of my breeding program. These pigs, very highly sought after because they're not destructive.
They're adorable.
They're adorable. They grow to a few hundred pounds. They take a little longer, but they're nice. They're docile. Like I said, they're not destructive, which is a huge thing.
A few hundred pounds. I'm thinking like a 50-pound dog. Like that's not what. No, they're not going to be that little.
No, the pot belly Juliana mixes that I have. I know you don't care, but the bigger pigs, those thought they were the. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm going to go off on this tangent, but they are.
Here's what I will say, Kristen. I know that there is a big problem in is this a small pig, potbelly pig, really, or am I going to bring it home and have a 900-pound heifer here? I understand that that's an issue. I've had friends that have had pigs before. My next door neighbor had a pig, and his name was Kevin Bacon. So this is not my first rodeo.
We almost named our piglet Kevin Bacon. That's funny. No, I raised 3 feeder. They're called feeder pigs. They're grown to be eaten. I raised 3 at one time. My first year of actually doing the homestead thing, I had the baby. Literally, she was 6-7 months old. I got 3 pigs. I got 6 chickens, and I was like, "We're homesteading." And I had a garden, and pigs grow really fast, like the feeder pigs. So I got them, I believe, in May, and by July, I was regretting everything because they were starting to destroy everything. And then by September, October, they were breaking out of the fences, and I was chasing them. We live right next to a small airport. I was chasing them to the airport runway, 400-pound pigs, and walking them back. And by the time they'd get back to their pen, they'd collapse because they were exhausted. But my first year, I got a compliment from a butcher, which in my world, that's like getting an Emmy.
Okay.
That's and so he still talks about this.
The regrets you had in July dissipated when the butcher told you were fat. Okay.
No.
So I think that this is something that our listeners are going to need to get used to, and that is us talking about the regrets that we have, the bad ideas that we've done, and we will be doing them like contemporaneously.
I have a
doing this
list.
podcast. Oh my gosh, we go down a lot of rabbit holes, you and I. Let's tell people what that means to us. If you are not ADHD, if you are a disciplined individual who wakes up and has a plan and a schedule of what you're going to do every day, first off, I have a tremendous admiration for you, because that is not something I understand in any way, shape, or form. The difference, the thing that I think is very important here is I surround myself as a general rule with people who are very organized. My husband, my paralegal, my finance person at the office, right there. I'm not even allowed to touch money most of the time because I make such a mess with it. But that is, that's really where I come to the table from. And you and I can go down these rabbit holes. We can get fascinated with something ridiculous and spend hours and hours and hours researching it, talking about it, trying to figure it out. And then the next day we're like, what were we talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's rabbit holes.
That's dangerous too, because my husband was like, crap, we're going to buy a farm and you're going to go right down that rabbit hole. And then in 6 months, you're going to be like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I have not done that. So we've actually found, I'm done with certain things, but,
give me an example.
Like
what are you
sourdough bread. I friggin' hate it. It sucked up so.
That was a COVID thing. I mean, I think everybody went through at least a bread phase. I personally did. My husband did. I went down the cake decorating, amongst others.
So I did not start sourdough until last year? 2023, early 20. So I was a late bloomer, but it was because of TikTok. Oh. Again, shocker. And
so addictive.
And I grew a starter. I baked beautiful loaves of bread. It was wonderful. But because of the ADHD traits I've got, you have to like stretch and fold bread 47 times and watch timing. And I wasted so much flour and so much dough. It was like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. And I don't even like the way it tastes. My family doesn't like it. The only thing my husband likes is the jalapeno cheddar loaves that I make.
Yeah, I gotta say, I actually love to cook, but there is a difference between cooking and baking, right? And I now completely get the difference, because I hate baking. I love cooking, but hate baking. And so I could see how I saw my husband going down the bread rabbit hole. And initially I wanted to, of course, micromanage it because he wasn't doing it nearly the way I would have done it. That is a staple in my life. I'm always trying to correct somebody to do it exactly the way I would want it to be done, or the way I think it should be done, or the way I think it should be cooked. He is much more normal, so he's not bogged down with such fanciful ideas. Yeah, but that's what we do. I took one look at the bread issue and said, this is not for me. I already know I'm gonna get a little too deep. I'm gonna hate it, and I'm gonna have regrets. That's just like your pig regrets in July. That's what I would have had.
Yep. That's what happened with the bread. I grew to hate it. I was so involved in it, then I hated it. And now I have all of this sourdough tools, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I know how to do it for when the apocalypse happens. So I'll keep this crap. That's the other problem I've got. I'll just keep it all until the apocalypse happens.
Yeah, I would venture to say, so that our listeners can get some context, I would say that there's some hoarding tendencies there. You get some hoarding tendencies.
Listen, don't look at the stuff behind me, okay? I was cleaning.
It's kind of who you are. And I think that, it's all terminology. Is it really hoarding, or is it super preparedness?
It's chaos, but I know where everything is.
Of course,
if my husband came in here and cleaned this room, I would never find anything, and I would lose my mind. I would go absolutely batshit crazy. No joke. I couldn't do it.
I get it. We do know where everything is at. We tend to live life in a pretty messy way. I think one of the problems with people like us is we have to see everything. Like drawers don't work for us. Closets don't work very well for us. My ideal world has everything I own, every piece of clothing I own hanging up so I can just look and see. Because if I can't see it, I can't even remember I have it. It's called object permanence, but it's a real bitch, I gotta say. It knocks you down.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to do the work to make those things happen. I don't want to hang up all my clothes, but I'd love that idea.
I want somebody to do it for me. I mean, that would be ideal, right? Like,
right.
See, there's a world where money really does buy you some happiness, because if you can hire like a butler or a maid to just hang your clothes up all day long for you, that would make things a lot more organized and easy. I mean,
Correct.
like that alone would be a game changer.
We're at a point now, I've been talking about taking out my entire cupboard where I have dishes and cups and everything, and just putting up like bolting boards to the wall so that I have like open concept shelving so that I can see the things. My husband thinks it's a terrible idea, but he is Mr. Organized. He is Mr. Whatever, not ADHD. I don't care. He's not in charge. I am.
He's not neurodivergent. He doesn't get it. And so we got to accommodate our, who we are, right? Got to do what works, right? What works for your husband isn't going to work for you. What works for my husband most certainly does not work for me.
We are very lucky in the fact that we are both a hot mess, and our husbands are pretty even keel. Like
I think this is a good time to give a shout out to our husbands right now, because they have I know mine has put up with a lot. My husband and I are going to be married 25 years, April 1st. And if that doesn't tell you anything, my husband and I got married on April Fool's Day. That's the kind of people we are. 25 years my husband has put up with a whole hell of a lot from me. I feel like he's gotten the worst end of the deal in some ways.
My husband and I got married in November of what freaking year? 2006. See, I don't even remember half the time. So this year will be our 19th wedding anniversary, but 20 years together.
Yeah.
Which is insane because I'm still like 26. But
I feel the same way.
But he definitely got the short end of the stick with me. I've contemplated several times, like, why is he still here? Like, why are we still doing this? Because I'm pretty sure this is not the greatest deal for him. And then I'm like, I'm kind of lucky because nobody else is going to put up with my BS.
I think my paralegal, Taylor, whom you know and have a long, deep relationship with, Kristen drove my paralegal so crazy that she almost refused to take any calls from Kristen. She was so overwhelmed. And of course, now she's come around full circle and adores you. Taylor had said something very profound to me about 6 months ago, maybe even a little bit longer. But she sat me down. She said, do you realize that in almost every relationship, there's someone's the anchor and someone is the sail? And she is my anchor. My husband is my anchor. And when I say that our spouses get the short end of the stick, that's really tongue-in-cheek, because we're amazing, you and I. We're hilarious. Yeah. We are the sails. We are the ones that bring the fun to the family. We're the ones with the ideas. We're the ones cobbling together all of the resources to do crazy stuff that we think that we want to do. And my husband is the highway and I'm the roller coaster. But I think that we need both. And so as much as I will give credit to my husband, and as much as Jeremy gets credit for putting up with you and our chaos, I also think that we are bringing some hilarity and some levity to their lives, and their lives would have been like super boring without us.
Oh yeah.
Like super.
Oh yeah. They never would have experienced half the stuff without us.
And now I'm thinking they should be thanking us.
They better
be thanking us.
You know,
we are pretty amazing.
We're top tier, honestly.
We don't get the credit we deserve. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
Well, hey Kristen, why are we doing a podcast? What is the purpose here? Why are we doing this?
Yes, we have, again, a lot to say. We're funny. It's a nice way to share about finances and life in general, and talk about crap like bankruptcy where people are afraid to talk about it, and probably throw some zingers at Dave Ramsey, because that sounds like fun to me.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some Dave Ramsey days, and if anyone listening in is a Dave Ramsey fan, listen, I'm going to apologize in advance because we are in an absolutely opposite place of Dave Ramsey. And very quickly, I do want to say that the world of finance is just a very, very different place. The American economy is so different than it was even 5 years ago. And so, we've gone through the phase of the bros, the level up bros, and the, do it yourself and take care of everything yourself kind of people. And really the reality today is that we have to get through debt really, really fast because we have to do things like build businesses and build wealth. And so we will be taking some pop shots. What is it? Pot shots?
Pot. Speaking of pot, no.
I was going to say the only thing we've been growing in our home in Ohio has been tomatoes, peppers, and a little bit of the stuff that is now legal. So I am learning how to grow things.
That also is a whole nother thing because growing tomatoes is very close to, we're going to go down this damn rabbit hole. Growing tomatoes and growing the devil's lettuce is really easy and similar.
I think we're probably ready to wrap this one up and get ready to figure out what we're going to do for the next one.
Before I forget, I drop the F-bomb like it's my life. Yeah. So there may be some adult language.
Well, we need to figure out what the rules are on that because we might have to, we want to make sure our content's getting out to people. Right. But at the same time, we want to make sure everybody understands that we are not probably the people to have on in the background when you're taking your kids to school, because we're definitely going to be talking about silly concepts and may drop the F-bomb now and then. I don't even know how to edit this stuff out yet.
I know how to edit. It's fine. I can filter myself, but
it's a struggle. I can filter myself, but I tend not to.
I mean, I don't.
Except in the business world, right? Yeah. Like I have figured out how to not drop the F-bomb in court.
I used to work in corporate. Like I was office managerial. I was high up in the business world, and I called the vice president of the company I worked at Tiny Hitler one day, and then proceeded to cuss him out. And he walked up to me after that meeting and slapped me on the back and said, "I knew you had balls, Kristen."
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Well, first off, I never knew you were in corporate. See,
really?
That's just another little fun fact I've just learned, and it's not exactly consistent with your hillbilly homesteading lifestyle. So we are going to have to circle back to that one of these days. I want to hear about your corporate experience.
I drop little eggs. Like. I drop little pieces to keep it going.
Oh, look at you. It was breadcrumbs, but eggs are so much more valuable now that people are going to follow you if you're dropping the eggs.
Breadcrumbs. I knew there was a word.
No wasting eggs. No wasting eggs.
No.
All right. Well, let's wrap this one up for today. And I got to tell you, I'm super excited about this. I do want people to know that we are going to, we're going to be talking about subjects that are that affect all of us. Mm-hmm. You're a mom. I'm a mom. Life is fun. Life is hilarious. Life is also hard. We've also both been through a lot of hard things. We'll talk very candidly about, the difficulties of day-to-day living in America, especially as women, as moms, trying to navigate where we fit in this world. And we are the ones generally tasked with the responsibility of figuring the finances out in the house and how everything is going to be stretched and how we're going to live our lives and the direction that our family is going to go in. So I think that's really what we're here to talk about candidly, so people can feel like they're not alone.
Absolutely. That's absolutely 100%. Yeah. I also might have spaced out a little bit.
I saw your eyes glazing over just a little bit. So I think that is on that note, I think it's a good time to get going here. It's starting to get a little bit warm, although we have a nice little breeze coming through, but it's going to just get warmer here for me. So I need to go get a bathing suit on and find a pool.
I'm going to go put my Carhartts from head to toe and go fill up my duck's pool and shovel pig poop.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that is a wonderful way to end our first episode, Kristen. I'm looking forward to many, many more.